The member for Dunkley.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise today to speak on the matter of public importance raised by the member for Sydney, and I refer to the article in the Age newspaper this morning revealing that the union tail is again wagging the Labor dog. This is a campaign by Labor's union to try and get the Leader of the Opposition to pay attention to public schools after he has spent weeks running around stitching up special deals for other schools, as well as targeting our retirees and our pensioners. It is disingenuous to say that we are making cuts, which make parents, teachers and others believe that the funding levels as they currently exist will reduce. The Australian Education Union's polling also failed to inform voters of record and growing funding that is going to Australian schools. That is, asking half questions to get the answers they want. We are seeing again with this MPI the attempt to control debate with Labor's campaign of misinformation. The Turnbull Coalition government, in fact, is presiding over record investment in Australian schools. We were at $6.8 billion last year, $7.4 billion this year, $8 billion next year, and $13.3 billion in 2027. These are not just vague promises like those opposite have given that only reach to next year. And in fact, when we compare Labor in 2009 to 2010, only a bit over 10% of government school funding was coming from the federal government, whereas under us, we're increasing that to 20%. We are taking school funding seriously, Mr Deputy Speaker, even if Labor aren't, and we are introducing true Gonski needs-based funding. The state, of course, provide the rest based on traditional division of powers between the levels of government. But we are also committed to quality school education. Needs-based funding, meaning students that need the most support will get the most support. And we've also announced the new review into quality education to be run by Mr Gonski. And in fact, unlike those opposite and their claims around cuts, investment is growing fastest for public schools at 6.4%, while non-government school growth is at 4.4%. The Turnbull government is introducing equitable, needs-based funding, as opposed to the opposition's ad hoc deals. Now let's look at locally in Dunkley, in my electorate. All 51 of my Dunkley schools are receiving an increase in funding, including all public schools, Catholic schools and independent schools. For example, Seaford Primary School is increasing from a bit over $390,000 in 2018 to about $614,000 in 2027. Nepean Special School is increasing from $1.05 million in 2018 to a bit over $1.6 million in 2027. Langwarrin Park Primary School is increasing from $1.7 million in 2018 up to $2.8 million in 2027. And lastly, David Scott School, for example, is increasing from $1.4 million in 2018 to $2.4 million in 2027. I could go on and I could go on through the list of all 51 schools, and they are all getting increases. Our total government funding, in fact, in Victoria, Mr Deputy Speaker, is increasing from $1.6 billion in 2018 up to $2.5 billion in 2027. That is an increase of almost $1 billion. In Dunkley, in 2018, we have 28,140 funded enrolments, with almost 70% in government schools. Total Dunkley school funding increases from $2.1 billion in 2018 up to $2.9 billion in 2027. That is an increase of over $800 million. So it is incorrect for those to say opposite, that there will be cuts not only to Dunkley schools, but to schools across the nation. And between 2018 to 2027, the Australian government is expected to provide $915 million to government and non-systemic independent schools in the electorate of Dunkley under the Quality Schools funding model. This is an average increase in funding of 45.85% per student in Dunkley from 2018 to 2027. So parents and teachers can see the facts for themselves on the Quality Schools website. They can see through the lies of Labor and the Australian Education Union. So I call on those opposite to tell the truth to the members of the public, to tell the truth to my electors in Dunkley, and to get on board with our education funding reforms.